What happens when one of Britain's most beloved television hosts sits down with royalty, expecting a friendly chat, only to face an ego that simply will not be tamed? In just 35 seconds, a single dismissive remark would ignite a firestorm that turned a morning show into must-see television. The studio lights were hot that morning. Lorraine Kelly, warm as ever, welcomed her guest with genuine enthusiasm. Meghan Markle walked onto the set with a smile that looked rehearsed, taking her seat across from Lorraine with the kind of confidence that teetered on the edge of something else entirely. Lorraine started simple. She always did. "It's wonderful to have you here. I know our viewers have been so excited to hear from you. How have you been settling in?" Meghan's smile tightened just slightly. "Settling in?" "Lorraine, I think that implies I needed to adjust. I've always been comfortable in the spotlight." Lorraine, ever the professional, laughed it off. Of course. I just meant with everything that's been happening. All the attention. It must be quite overwhelming at times." "Overwhelming?" Meghan tilted her head. "I'm not sure you understand what I deal with on a daily basis. This," she gestured around the studio, "this is nothing." The temperature in the room shifted. Lorraine's smile remained, but her eyes showed the first flicker of surprise. She pressed on. "Right. Well, let's talk about your work then. You've been involved in some wonderful charitable causes. What's been inspiring you lately?" Meghan leaned back in her chair, crossing her legs with deliberate slowness. "Inspiring me?" "Lorraine, I don't get inspired. I inspire others. That's the difference." Lorraine blinked. The studio crew exchanged glances. This was not going the way anyone had expected. But Lorraine, seasoned broadcaster that she was, kept her composure. "That's quite a statement. Can you tell us more about what you mean by that?" "What I mean," Meghan said slowly, as if explaining something to a child, "is that people like me, we're not here to take cues from anyone. We set the tone. We lead. And frankly, I'm not sure your audience would understand that." There it was. The first real jab. Lorraine's jaw tightened, almost imperceptibly. "My audience is incredibly intelligent and engaged, actually. They're the reason we're able to have these conversations." Meghan waved her hand dismissively. Sure. But let's be honest, Lorraine. Your show is, what do you call it? Daytime television? It's not exactly hard-hitting journalism." The crew went silent. You could hear the cameras still rolling, the faint hum of the lights overhead, but nothing else. Lorraine sat up straighter. "We cover real stories, real people. We've broken important news, had meaningful conversations. Just because we also like to have a bit of fun doesn't diminish the work we do." "If you say so." Meghan examined her nails. "But you have to admit, there's a difference between what you do and what real journalists do." Lorraine's smile was gone now, not replaced with anger, but with something firmer. Resolve. "I've been doing this for 30 years. I've interviewed prime ministers, celebrities, everyday heroes. I've covered stories that mattered. I'm proud of the work we do here." Meghan laughed. Actually laughed. 30 years? And you're still doing morning television? That's quite something. The words hung in the air like smoke. The producers in the control room were frozen. One of them reached for the phone, unsure whether to cut to commercial or let this play out. Lorraine made the decision for them. "I'm not sure what you're trying to achieve here," Lorraine said, her Scottish accent becoming more pronounced, a sure sign she was done playing nice. "You came on my show. You agreed to this interview. If you have such disdain for what we do, why are you here?" Meghan's expression shifted. The practiced smile returned, but there was ice behind it. "Oh, Lorraine, don't take it personally. I'm just being honest. Something tells me you're not used to that." "I'm used to honesty just fine," Lorraine shot back. "What I'm not used to is rudeness, disguised as honesty. There's a difference. And you seem to be struggling with that concept. Meghan's eyes widened. Excuse me? You heard me. Lorraine's voice was steady, clear. I invited you here to have a conversation. A real one. Not to be talked down to. Not to have my career belittled. And certainly not to have my audience insulted. Meghan uncrossed her legs and leaned forward. Are you seriously lecturing me right now? Do you know who I am? I know exactly who you are, Lorraine said. And right now, you're being incredibly disrespectful. Not just to me, but to everyone in this building who works incredibly hard to make this show happen every single day. Meghan stood up abruptly. I don't have to sit here and listen to this. You're absolutely right, Lorraine said, standing as, well, you don't. But here's the thing. This is my show, my studio, and I have every right to call out behavior that crosses a line. Your show? Meghan's voice rose. Please. Do you think anyone would watch if it weren't for guests like me? I'm doing you a favor by being here. Lorraine shook her head slowly. No, you're not. And that right there is the problem. You seem to think you're above everyone else, above common courtesy, above basic respect. I am not going to stand here and be spoken to like this, Meghan said, her voice shaking with indignation. This is outrageous. I came here in good faith. Good faith? Lorraine's eyebrows shot up. You've done nothing but insult this show, insult me, and insult our viewers since the moment you sat down. That's not good faith. That's arrogance. Meghan's face flushed red. How dare you? Do you have any idea the scrutiny I face? The pressure? The constant judgment? And now I have to deal with this from you? Everyone faces pressure, Lorraine said firmly. Everyone deals with scrutiny. That doesn't give you the right to treat people poorly. We all have challenges. It's how we handle them that matters. Meghan grabbed her microphone and pulled it off, the wire dangling. This is absurd. You clearly don't understand what it's like to be in my position. Maybe not, Lorraine conceded, but I understand what it's like to work hard, to treat people with dignity, and to show up every day trying to do my best. And I understand that no matter who you are, kindness costs nothing. Meghan tossed the microphone onto the chair. I'm done here. Wait, Lorraine called out, her voice softer but still firm. Before you go, I want you to understand something. This show has been on the air for years because we respect our viewers, we respect our guests, and we respect ourselves. Whatever you're going through, whatever pressures you're under, that's no excuse for what happened here today. Meghan turned back, her eyes blazing. You have no idea what you're talking about. You sit here in your comfortable little studio, asking your comfortable little questions, and you think you understand real pressure? Real stakes? You don't. Then help me understand, Lorraine said, taking a step forward. Have a real conversation with me. Not this performance. Not these put-downs. Just talk to me like one person to another. For a moment, something flickered across Meghan's face. Something that might have been vulnerability, but it vanished as quickly as it appeared, replaced by that same practiced composure. I don't owe you anything, Meghan said coldly. I don't owe anyone anything. And I certainly don't need to justify myself to you or your audience. Lorraine's shoulders sagged slightly, not in defeat, but in disappointment. No, you don't owe us anything, but you came here. You chose to be on this show, and with that comes a basic level of respect. That's all I'm asking for. Well, I'm sorry I can't meet your expectations, Meghan said, dripping with sarcasm. But I have standards too. And sitting here being attacked isn't something I signed up for? Attacked? Lorraine's voice rose slightly. Holding you accountable for your words isn't an attack. Asking you to treat people with basic courtesy isn't an attack. If that feels like an attack to you, then maybe you need to examine why. Meghan's hands balled into fists at her sides. You know what? I see what this is. This is jealousy. You can't stand that someone younger, more relevant, is sitting in your chair. That's what this is really about." Lorraine actually laughed at that. A real, genuine laugh. Jealous? Of what, exactly? Your ability to alienate everyone in a room within 5 minutes? Your talent for making everything about yourself? No, love, I'm not jealous. I'm just disappointed. Disappointed? Meghan's voice cracked. You have no right to be disappointed in me. You don't know me. You don't know my life. You're right, I don't, Lorraine agreed. But I know what I've seen here today. And what I've seen is someone who had an opportunity to connect with people, to have a meaningful conversation, and instead chose to be condescending and rude. Meghan started toward the exit. I'm leaving, and trust me, everyone will hear about this. Everyone will know how I was treated on this show. Please do, Lorraine called after her. Tell them exactly what happened. Tell them how you came on a show, insulted the host, insulted the crew, insulted the audience, and then stormed off when someone finally stood up to you. Meghan stopped in her tracks. Slowly, she turned around. You're going to regret this. No, Lorraine said quietly, but with absolute certainty. I won't, because I know I did the right thing. I stood up for my team. I stood up for my audience. And I stood up for basic human decency. That's something I'll never regret. Meghan's mouth opened, then closed. She seemed to struggle for words, something that clearly didn't happen often. Finally, she managed, This isn't over. Actually, Lorraine said, gesturing toward the door, it is. I'm going to have to ask you to leave my studio now. The words landed like a gavel. Final. Absolute. The crew held their breath. Meghan looked around the studio, perhaps expecting someone to come to her defense. No one moved. Fine, Meghan spat. I was leaving anyway. This whole thing is beneath me. There it is again, Lorraine noted. That word. Beneath. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe you've spent so much time thinking about what's beneath you that you've forgotten how to connect with anyone. Meghan's face was scarlet now. I connect with millions of people. People who actually matter. Everyone matters, Lorraine said simply. The person who makes your coffee. The person who holds the door. The camera operator over there. Everyone. Until you understand that, you're going to keep having moments like this. Meghan shook her head violently. I don't need a lecture from you. I don't need anything from you. Then we finally agree on something, Lorraine said. The door is that way. Meghan grabbed her bag from beside the chair, her movements sharp and angry. She looked at Lorraine one more time. You'll be hearing from my people. I'm sure I will, Lorraine replied calmly. And they'll hear the same thing I'm telling you now. We treat everyone with respect here. When someone can't do the same, they're not welcome back. Meghan turned on her heel and marched toward the exit. The studio doors swung open. She paused for just a second in the doorway, her back to the cameras, her shoulders rigid. Then she was gone. The doors closed with a soft thud that somehow felt deafening. Lorraine stood there for a moment, looking at the empty chair across from her. The studio was absolutely silent. Then, from somewhere off camera, one person started clapping. Then another. Within seconds, the entire crew was applauding. Lorraine's face softened. She gave a small, slightly embarrassed smile and waved them off. All right, she said, her voice thick with emotion. We've still got a show to do. Let's take 5 minutes, pull ourselves together, and get back to it. We owe our viewers that much. The crew dispersed, still buzzing with energy. The producer approached Lorraine carefully. Are you okay? Lorraine nodded, taking a deep breath. Yeah, I am. I couldn't let it continue. I couldn't sit there and let her talk to us like that. You did the right thing, the producer assured her. Absolutely the right thing. Lorraine smiled wearily. I hope so. I really do. What had started as a routine interview had exploded into something none of them would forget. 35 seconds. That's all it took. 35 seconds from a simple question about settling into a guest implying the show was nothing. 35 seconds before everything changed. But in those fiery minutes that followed, something important happened. Lorraine Kelly, beloved broadcaster, showed exactly why she had earned that title. She showed that kindness doesn't mean being a doormat. That respect is a two-way street, and that sometimes standing up for what's right means standing up to someone who thinks they're untouchable. As Lorraine sat back down in her chair, straightening her notes for the next segment, she looked directly into the camera, not performing, not pretending, just being herself. "Right then," she said when they came back from break. "Well, that was unexpected. But you know what? Life is full of surprises. Some good, some not so good. The important thing is how we handle them, how we treat each other, even when things get difficult." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "I've been doing this job for a very long time. And one thing I've learned is that it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, or what your title is. What matters is how you treat people. Every single person deserves respect. Every single person deserves kindness." The phones in the studio were already ringing off the hook. Social media was exploding. Everyone wanted to know what had just happened. Everyone wanted to talk about it. But Lorraine, true to form, simply moved on to her next guest, a local teacher who had started a community garden. Someone doing real work, making a real difference, without any need for fanfare or recognition. The contrast couldn't have been more stark. Here was someone genuinely humble, genuinely excited to share their story. No attitude, no condescension, just authentic enthusiasm and warmth. And Lorraine lit up. This was what she loved. These were the conversations that mattered. Not the celebrity drama, not the manufactured moments. Just real people, real stories, real connections. Meanwhile, somewhere outside the studio, Meghan sat in the back of a car, her phone already pressed to her ear. Her version of events was already being crafted. The victim narrative, already taking shape. But the cameras had told the truth. The microphones had caught every word. There was no spinning what had happened, no rewriting the reality of that exchange. Back in the studio, as the show continued, something beautiful happened. The crew worked with renewed energy. Lorraine's warmth shone even brighter, and the viewers, they understood. They saw what had happened. They saw someone stand up for decency. Because at the end of the day, that's what it came down to. Not status, not titles, not who had more followers or more influence, just basic human decency. The kind that says everyone matters. The kind that says respect isn't optional. When the show wrapped, Lorraine sat in her dressing room, finally allowing herself to feel the weight of what had happened. Her hands were shaking slightly as she removed her makeup. Not from fear or regret, but from the sheer intensity of the moment. Her phone was full of messages. Colleagues expressing support. Friends checking if she was okay. And somewhere in there, a message from the network executives. She took a breath before opening it, but instead of the reprimand she half expected, it was simple. "Well handled. We stand behind you completely." She let out a long breath. Maybe she had been worried for nothing. Maybe doing the right thing would actually be recognized as such. It was a novel thought in an industry that often valued spectacle over substance. What happens when entitlement meets integrity? When someone who expects to be treated like royalty encounters someone who treats everyone equally? The answer had played out on live television for everyone to see. In just 35 seconds, a simple question had sparked a confrontation that would be replayed, analyzed, and debated for days to come. But more than that, it had shown something important. that standing up for respect, for dignity, for basic kindness is never the wrong choice. Lorraine Kelly had done what she always did. She showed up. She did her job. She treated people with respect. And when that respect wasn't returned, she stood her ground. Not with cruelty, not with malice, but with firm, unwavering principle. And Meghan, she had shown something too, that no amount of status or recognition can substitute for genuine humility. That looking down on others only reveals your own insecurities. That respect must be given, not demanded. The moment would become infamous. Clips would circulate for years. People would reference it whenever discussions of celebrity behavior came up. It would become a teaching moment, though perhaps not in the way Meghan had intended. Because what people would remember wasn't just the drama. It was how Lorraine handled it. With grace, with strength, with an unwillingness to compromise on what mattered. She had shown that you can be kind without being weak, that you can be professional without tolerating disrespect. What happens when someone who demands respect refuses to give it? In just 35 seconds, the world found out. Character isn't about who you are on paper. It's about who you are when faced with someone you think can't fight back. Lorraine Kelly proved she could, and she did.